25 years after the FI Group C formula was launched for the World Sports Car Championship, the 250 mph sports car races are back, thanks to Group C GTP Racing. Not only that, but they're back at Britain's Brands Hatch circuit, where that first 1982 season of 1,000-kilometre races came to a wet and dramatic conclusion. Rothmans Porsche beating Lancia to the driver and team's title by just a few seconds. This is Group C 2007. By the end of the decade, Group C had attracted almost a dozen manufacturers. In addition to Porsche and Lancia, there were Ford, Aston Martin, Jaguar, Mercedes, Nissan, Toyota, Mazda and Peugeot, threatening even Formula One in the heyday of this fuel-restricted category, which preempted today's ecological concerns by a quarter of a century. At that 1982 Brands Hatch 1,000 kilometres, there were 25 cars on the grid. This weekend, still at the former British Grand Prix circuit in Kent's Garden of England, there are again 25 cars attracted by Group C GTP racing on the Porsche 956 Silver Jubilee. 956 and 962 turbo cars, XJR Jaguars from Le Mans and IMSA, factory Aston Martins, 1,000 horsepower Nissans, IMSA Intrepids and Argos and Spices. These cars are the history of sports car racing, and they're alive and kicking at Brands Hatch. Well, the first 4,000 kilometres here were run by British drivers at home. Derek Bell helping Eeks to that first title in 1982. Derek Warwick and John Fitzpatrick in the latter's J. David 956 in 1983. Jonathan Palmer and Jan Lammers for RLR Cannon Porsche in 1984, and Bell again with Hans Stuck for Rothmans Porsche in 1985. After another British victory in 1986, again Richard Lloyd's Cannon Porsche with Bob Wallach and Maribaldi, Jaguar delighted its home crowd with back-to-back wins in 1987 and 1988. Andy Wallace and Martin Brundle showing the car for the second. This weekend, both Bell and Palmer are back here to see the cars from that golden era of sports car racing back at full cry at the Masters Historic Festival. The final race of that first year was the October 1982 Brands Hatch 1,000 kilometres, and little has changed. That race started under the rain too, and gave Jack Eeks and Rothmans Porsche the first Group C titles. Here we are, a new era of Group C racing, 25 years after the first of the Porsche 956s appeared. That was here in England, it was at Silverstone. They raced later in the year at Brands Hatch, and that was a wet Brands Hatch, so not a lot has changed. Two races for the revived Group C GTP racing series, one a 25-minute sprint on Sunday, the other a 40-minute pit stop enduro on Monday, recreate those heady days. Jaguar battling it out with Porsche, Aston Martin, Nissan and Spice. Damp qualifying was dominated by another C1 Spice, the 1990 SE90C of Neil Clark, ahead of the Silk Cut Jaguars of Justin Law and Gary Pearson. But because Clark's co-driver Ian Stinton is starting, the Spice has to go to the back of the grid. So flying dentist David Mercer starts third behind the Silk Cats in his 1990 C1 Spice powered by a 3.5 litre DFR. Mark Mark Sumpter's 1989 US Porsche 962C and Brian de Vries's 1991 Intrepid Chevrolet GTP car start 4th and 5th. Derek Bell was 2 times world champion and a 5 times Le Mans winner, and he's not going to miss the return of power. Derek Bell, just like the old days, 1982 at Brands Hatch, and it's still raining.
Still raining, I know, it's rained ever since we finished that last race. The only problem is I'm not driving anything, but I will be at Silverstone. But it's really fantastic. I mean, just look up that grid and see all the cars, you know, and realise there's a lot of enthusiasm for it. And it's quite a good crowd, you consider it's piddling with rain. And, you know, there's lots of other things to watch this afternoon, Indianapolis and Monaco Grand Prix, so there's a lot of people aren't here, but I think it's phenomenal. I'm just looking forward to getting in one of the cars myself.
Everyone called this the golden age of sports car racing. It really was, wasn't it?
Well, I know, but I think we all get like that when we get older. Everything that we did was the best. I don't know, but I personally, yes, I think it is. I mean, when you just look at these cars, I mean, in 20 years' time, they won't be doing this because there's only going to be 2 Audis out there and 2 Pescarollos, and the rest will be Porsche GT3s, and that's a pity.
On board Chris Randall's Momo Nissan, starting from 10th place. The rain, which has blighted much of the weekend, eases off for race 1, but everyone is on full wets as Law, Pearson and Mercer lead from the FAT Turbo Porsche of Sumpter, Andy Purdy's RLR Porsche, Brian de Vries's Intrepid Chevrolet, and Gavin Kershaw in Paul White's 1989 Aston Martin AMR1. Onto the Grand Prix circuit where Mercer snatched 3rd as Randall takes 5th from de Vries. Tailender Richard Oddy brings out the first yellows as he backs his 1991 Argo Chevy into the wall exiting Graham Hill Bend, showing just how slippery conditions are. With the Argo stuck across the track, there'll be no alternative to bring out the safety car for a lap as it's cleared. The Law continues to lead Pearson, but Kershaw's Aston Martin's bidding for 4th. He has to back off as yellows greet his move to pass Sumpter. The 2 laps behind the safety car maintain the order. Green again, and Mercer goes straight into 2nd place ahead of Pearson. But this is the last we'll see of Pearson or Kershaw as the Aston Martin bumps the Jaguar XJR11 off the road at Surtees, then goes off itself. A 170 miles per hour along Brabham Straight highlights just how fast these sports prototypes were, and still are. Chris Randall's now suffering from a misfire in the Momo Nissan. It's the first time the car has run in the wet, and rather than risk damage to the turbo motor, he retires to the pits. David Mercer takes the win from Justin Law and Mark Sumpter after 15 treacherous laps. Law celebrates his 2nd place, receiving the garland and champagne from Porsche's double world champion Bell. Mercer collects his, the little spice, the better suited car to these conditions. The RLR Porsche of Andy Purdy, Richard Ayres, IMSA Bud Light Jaguar XJR16 Turbo and the de Vries Intrepid complete the top 6 of 18 finishers. Justin Law, that was a pretty hairy race out there.
Yeah, very, very slippy, but great fun.
So, big battle going on in that first lap between you all. Then they had the safety car, and then everything went wrong after that for the rest of them.
Yeah, I mean, the first few laps I was just trying my best to stay on line and, well, stay on the track. Couldn't really see much of what was going on behind me, but I just concentrated on staying there, you know. But yeah, the safety car was a bit of a shame, really. And once Mercer got past me, there's no way I could catch him. So just a case of trying to hang on to the second place, which we're very happy with, you know. That's good.
Yeah, it was quite fun. It's quite exciting for a first race of the year. I had to get back on this Capri. I went on it in period, and I'm that old. I remember it well.
So after that safety car period, you just lit up, didn't you? Why? Get better tyres or?
No, first time I've driven this car on these Dunlop tyres, and just wanted to be careful and make sure we get through to the next race. And then confidence came, and away we went.
David, you're chairman of the Group C GTP organisation. You must be delighted at the turnout today.
Oh, this shows the fruits of all our hard work. Everybody, you know, there's too many people to thank, but it's a team effort. And to see the cars growing, fantastic cars. I'm sorry I won again, but a lot more competition.
Putting your money where your mouth is, isn't it?
Well, in these conditions, hopefully, the other things come into play. But it was a bit slippery. Yeah, super. Thanks very much. Okay.
Well, one thing's for sure: everyone has a lot of cleaning up to do before race 2. After the break. Back to Group C at Brands Hatch, where the circuit owner's been reunited with the Canon Porsche in which he won the 1984 1,000 kilometres. Jonathan Palmer, long time since you last saw this car.
Yeah, it has been, and this is one of the great icons of, I think, any racing car, but a hugely significant car in my racing career. You know, here at Brands Hatch, the Grand Prix circuit, one of my best ever race results, and certainly my best Group C victory was here in 1984, sharing the car with Jan Lammers, and having a superb race, pole position, and really going off and winning the race. But of course, the other one that's very memorable too is this driver lineup when we ran at the Nürburgring with Keke Rosberg, and it wasn't the new Nürburgring either. It was the old circuit, you know, the full fast-flowing circuit, and one of these things around the old Nürburgring was really scary, I have to say.
And here you are, many years later. You now own Brands Hatch and the Group Motorsport Vision, and you've welcomed them back this weekend. Does that have anything to do with your past history?
Well, very slightly, I suppose. I'm certainly a great fan of Group C cars. I was at the time, I am now. And I think when you look back over the history of sports car racing and you just see the number of cars that were on the grid in the 80s, between the Porsches and particularly the Lancias, so many of us from Formula One would actually come and race in Porsches. More would race in the Lancias, Patrese, Alboreto, De Cesaris, Nannini. It was like a kind of sort of hobby fun weekend for Grand Prix drivers. We go off, we'd have the stress of driving in generally not very good Formula One cars, and then go off to earn some money and have some fun, go and race Group C on the other weekend. So life was very busy, but good fun.
After Sunday's rain, the Group C GTP races were hoping to get some respite, but it's not to be. This British bank holiday, wet, windy and cold, spoiling the garden party of atmosphere of what should have been the best historic weekend outside Goodwood. Well, Mercer's looking for a second win, while Richard Chester warms up his 1987 Tiger Buick GTP car. Well, the 3 Nissans entered. Only Nick Randall's 1990 NTP 90 made the first race finish. Sons Chris's debuting Momo Nissan NTP 90 pitting with a misfire, and Henry Pearman's factory R90 CK Le Mans car non-starting. Neil Clark will start the 23 Spice C1 from pole, while Justin Law is determined to win this one in the number 3 XJR 12. second race will be longer, with a mandatory pit stop to change drivers, or in the case of single drivers, to get out of and then back into the car. On row 2, Mercer and Pearson's 1989 XJR11 Turbo. Well, even as the rolling lap gets underway, the rain returns. We're again on board Randall's Momo Nissan. Third row, Mark Sumpter's US Porsche and De Vries's Intrepid, followed by Andy Purdy's 1998 RLR Porsche and Paul White's Aston Martin AMR1. Alvin Powell is at the wheel of the Tiger 288, which Rainieri Randaccio raced in the Group C era. The race goes green, and Clark immediately puts his pole-winning Spice into the lead from the two Silk Cats. Pearson jumping Law for second. Nick Randall has the number 88 Nissan GTP car, as raced by Jeff Brabham in IMSA. And American Jim Loftus has the Mazda 575B Rotary, which won its class at Le Mans in 1988. It's too slippery for Powell, who revolves the Tiger, but he keeps the motor running. Out at Westfield, Clark is still out in front in the Spice with 3.5 litres of Cosworth DFR power. Randall goes for 7th place. Stephen Hepworth is now at the wheel of the Argo Chevy, repaired after yesterday's accident. Clark is giving nothing away to the two Jaguars, while behind them the two Porsche 962s are ganging up on Mercer. 9th place is being disputed between Jim Mullen's Spice Chevrolet, Richard Ayres' GTP Bud Light XJR16 and the Aston Martin. American Mullen won the Sebring 12 Hours outright in 1983 for Porsche and just can't stop racing. Still 5th, Sumpter's Fat Turbo Express 962C is the car which gave Porsche its last ever World Sports Car Championship win at Dijon in 1989 in the hands of Bob Wallach and Frank Ulinski. Powell has now recovered from his spin and has picked up a couple more places. Mercer is still trying to pass Law, whose 1990 V12 was reputedly bolted onto Tom Walkinshaw's office wall. Mercer has a look at Westfield, but Law is defending his line out here in the country as they drop down into Dingle Dell. Randall Senior's NPT Nissan is running well, one of the most iconic cars racing in the IMSA GTP era. Richard Bateman's Little Tiger is rover powered and was raced in the British CT Championship by Tim Harvey in 1988. Mercer finally passes Law as they flash along Brabham Straight. We go back on board with Chris Randall, but he's got more problems.
Well, the problem is something that started yesterday that stopped my race. It started misfiring. We thought we'd found the cause, but we obviously haven't. So as soon as the turbos come spool up, the car suddenly starts misfiring. You've got no power. I didn't carry on until the pit stop window started, but we've come to the conclusion we don't want to risk damaging the engine by running with a misfire, so we're pulling it in and seeing if we can have a look, see what's wrong with it.
And even as the pit stop window opens, the rain becomes much worse. Race leader Clark laps the Loftus Mazda as Pearson follows, still in 2nd place. Mercer and Law are running 3rd and 4th. Richard Ayres' Bud Light XJR16 is turbo-powered and took 5 outright IMSA GTP wins in 1999. Meanwhile, Tiger and Argo battle for the backfield honours. The sudden deluge sends cars skating off and the safety car is brought out, which prompts virtually the whole field to dive into the pits for the mandatory stops. The 60-second halt gives drivers a chance to refuel before climbing back on board. Well, recreating the trademark stops of the Group C era certainly adds to the spectacle, but without the inherent danger of refuelling, although it still provides plenty of excitement in a crowded pit lane. As they return to the track, Andy Purdy, 23 years old today, finds himself in the lead in the RR 962C, which Derek Bell and Tiff Liddell raced in 1988. Conditions are now quite dreadful. And when second place Neil Clark crashes heavily in Dingledell, the organisers have no option to bring out the red flag.
Oh, terribly disappointing, you know, after such a good showing, and I thought I'd got a good chance of winning, but unfortunately we had some gear selection problems which are getting worse and worse, and the car just stuck into fourth gear coming out of Westfield, and I needed to have third gear. So I did realise that it was going to be an accident, or I was hoping I could save it. I went around 3 times and I could see Gary Pearson's eyes glinting at me each time I spun around, and I managed to keep it on the tarmac. Then unfortunately on the 4th revolution I touched the grass, and then I was purely a passenger, hands off, looking out the window, trying to work out where we're going to end up.
For Group C debutant Purdy, it's the best birthday present he could have wished for, winning from Gary Pearson and Mark Sumpter.
Yes, 2 goals for Purdy, he now is. Andy, congratulations, well done. Champagne in the air, all smart photographers, and just a big round of applause for those of you in the pit lane for 3 excellent.
Andy Purdy, well done, 23 years old today, and a big win for you.
Yeah, I couldn't have written it better myself. It was just fantastic. I mean, it ended under a red flag, but I mean, that's how it goes. When you've got that sort of amount of rain, someone's going to come off, and if they're in the middle of the track, it's got to be stopped like that. So, but I mean, I'm over the moon. I just can't believe it.
Your first taste of Group C racing this weekend, and what a result.
Yeah, I haven't had much time in a Group C car, and I just didn't want to get out of it. So, I mean, it's unbelievable. I had a great weekend. The testing went badly, but qualifying was my practice. We did all right there, and yesterday went fantastic with 4th, but today I'm just over the moon. We've got champagne, it's even better.
The next of the 6 Group C GTP racing rounds is at the Nürburgring, followed by Le Mans Bugatti, the Silverstone Classic, Donington Park, and the Spa-Francorchamps finale in October.